Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. I hope all of you are doing well. Okay, before we begin today's lessons, let me tell you a simple story. Imagine that you are sitting in the classroom, the air conditioner is on, and suddenly one of your classmates says, "It's cold here." How would you interpret that sentence? Is your friend simply informing you that the room temperature is low? Is your friend complaining because the room is uncomfortable? Or is your friend indirectly asking someone to turn off the air conditioner? Interestingly, the sentence is exactly the same, but its meaning can be completely different depending on the situation. This simple example reminds us that understanding language is not merely about understanding words and grammar. In real communication, meaning is often shaped by context, intention, and shared experience. Today, we are going to discuss one of the most fundamental topics in semantic and pragmatics, namely meaning in language. Through these lessons, we will explore how meaning is formed, how people interpret message, and why context plays an essential role in communications. So, let's begin our discussions. To understand meaning in language, we first need to understand three interconnected concepts: communications, language, and interpretations. For the first, communications. Communication is the process of exchanging information, ideas, emotion, and experiences. Communication is the process of exchanging information, ideas, emotion, and experiences. Communications may occur through spoken language, written language, gestures, facial expressions, and even silence. Second, language serves as the primary tool of communications. Through language, people represent ideas and express their thoughts and feelings. For the third, interpretations. Interpretation is the process of understanding message. Every time someone speaks to us, we do not merely hear sounds or read words. Instead, our minds actively interpret what those words actually mean. Therefore, communications, language, and interpretation are inseparable. Communication uses language, and interpretations help us understand the intended meaning behind language. By the end of these lessons, there are 4 learning outcomes that you are expected to achieve. For the first one, you should be able to explain the concept of meaning in language and understand its significance in communications. The second, you should be able to identify the different types of meaning proposed by Geoffrey Lake. For the third, you should be able to distinguish conceptual meaning from associated meaning using appropriate examples. And finally, you should be able to analyze how context shapes the interpretation of meaning in real-life communications. These competencies are important because effective communication requires us not only to know the meaning of words, but also to understand how meaning changes according to different situations. Now, let us revisit the sentence. It's cold here. Take a moment and think about this sentence. Could it simply be information? Yes. Could it be a complaint? Absolutely. Could it be an indirect request? Yes, it could. The interesting thing about language is that people often communicate more than what they literally say. The same sentence may perform different communicative functions depending on who says it, where it is said, and why it is said. This is precisely why studying meaning is important. I would like you to think about the following questions. Why can the same sentence have different meanings? Please pause for a few seconds and reflect on your answers. Most likely, your answer involves several factors. Different speakers have different intentions. Different listeners have different experiences. Different situations create different interpretations. In other words, meaning is not fixed solely within words. Meaning emerges through interaction between language and context. What is meaning? So, what exactly is meaning? In simple terms, meaning is the message conveyed through language. Language enables us to communicate ideas, emotions, and information. However, meaning doesn't exist independently from context. Consider this sentence. The door is open. At the literal level, this sentence simply describes the condition of a door. However, in another situation, the speakers may be complaining because cold air is coming in. In a different context, the speaker may actually be requesting someone to close the door. Therefore, understanding meaning requires us to pay attention not only to words but also to context, culture, and communicative intentions. One important theory that explains meaning in the semantic triangle. According to this model, meaning involves three interconnected elements. The first element is the word or symbol. This refers to the spoken or written forms of language. The second element is the concept. This is the mental image or idea that comes to our minds when we hear a word. And the third element is referent. This is the actual object or entity in the real world. For example, when you hear the word cat, you do not immediately think about a specific animal standing in front of you. Instead, you first construct a mental image of a cat in your mind. That mental image then allows you to connect the words with the actual animal in reality. This process demonstrates the meaning is mediated by our conceptual understanding. Linguist Geoffrey Lake proposed that meaning is multidimensional. He identified seven types of meaning. There are conceptual, associative, social, affective, reflective, collocative, and thematic meaning. Each type represents a different way in which language conveys message. However, in today's lessons, we will focus on the two most fundamental types, namely conceptual meaning and associative meaning. Understanding these two concepts provides a strong foundation for understanding how language operates in communication. Conceptual meaning is also called denotative or literal meaning. It refers to the objective and relatively stable meaning of words. Usually, conceptual meaning can be found in dictionaries. For example, the word woman refers to an adult human female. The word dog refers to a domesticated animal. When we say, the woman is reading a book, we normally interpret the sentence literally without adding emotions or cultural associations. Conceptual meaning serves as the foundations of communications because it provides a common understanding among language users. Unlike conceptual meaning, associative meaning is subjective. It is influenced by personal experience, emotions, and cultural backgrounds. Consider the word rose. Conceptually, it is simply a flower. Associatively, however, it may symbolize love, beauty, romance, or affection. Interestingly, different people may associate the same word with different feelings. Someone may associate the word home with comfort and happiness, while another person may associate it with loneliness or difficult memories. Therefore, associative meaning demonstrates how human experiences shape the interpretation of language. Now, let us compare conceptual meaning and associative meaning. Conceptual meaning is literal and relatively stable. Associative meaning is emotional and highly variable. Conceptual meaning comes from dictionary definitions. Associative meaning comes from personal experience and cultural understanding. Take the word home as an example. Conceptually, home means a place where someone lives. Associatively, however, home may represent love, security, family, warmth, and belonging. Both dimensions work together whenever we communicate. Perhaps the most important idea in today's lesson is the role of context. The sentence, "It's cold here," can have different meanings because context influences interpretations. There are three important types of context. The first, linguistic context, which refers to the surrounding words and sentence. The second is situational context, including place, time, and participant. The third is cultural context, which involves social norms and shared belief. Context acts like a key that unlocks meanings. Context acts like a key that unlocks meaning. Without context, language can easily become ambiguous and lead to misunderstanding. In every communication, people rarely say exactly what they mean. For example, when a teacher says, "Can you open page 20?" The sentence looks like a question about ability. However, the actual meaning is an instruction. Similarly, when a mother says, "The trash is still there," she is most likely asking someone to take it out. And another example is, "I haven't eaten all day." Literally, this is information. Grammatically, however, it may function as indirect request for food or an invitation to eat together. The example demonstrates that effective communications depends on our ability to infer intended meaning. Before we end today's lessons, I would like you to apply what you have learned. Imagine your friend says, "It's cold here." Create three different situations in which the sentence has different meanings. For each situation, explain the context, identify the speaker's intended meanings, and explain why the interpretation changed. Please write your response in approximately 150 to 100 words. Sum your work individually through Google Drive before our next class meeting. This activity will help you practice analyzing how context shapes meaning in real communication. Today, we have learned that meaning lies at the heart of communications. We have explored conceptual meaning and associative meaning, and we have said that language can never be fully understood without considering context. As language users, We should always remember that communications involves more than vocabulary and grammar. Understanding meaning requires us to pay attention to words, intentions, situations, and cultural background. Ultimately, effective communications depends not only on what is said, but also on how, where, and why it is said. Remember, words carry meaning, but context gives them lives. Thank you very much for your participation and attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.